The silence hurt more than the rejection. The empty room hurt more than the arguments. The long evenings, the unanswered messages, the feeling of being forgotten, overlooked, disconnected, and invisible seemed to create a weight that settled deep within your heart. There were moments when it felt as though life was moving forward for everyone except you. You watched people build friendships, relationships, careers, and communities while you stood on the outside, wondering why your path felt so different. You tried to understand why the connections you fought to keep seemed to fade. You tried to understand why certain doors remained closed despite your effort, your kindness, and your patience. You carried burdens that few people ever noticed. You smiled through days that felt heavier than anyone realized. You learned how to continue functioning even while parts of your heart felt exhausted. What made the loneliness especially painful was not simply the absence of people. It was the questions that came with it. The uncertainty, the confusion, the feeling that perhaps something was wrong with you because your life did not look like the lives around you. Yet there is a truth many people discover only after years of reflection. Some seasons are not designed to add more voices to your life. Some seasons are designed to remove them. Not because you are being punished, not because you are being abandoned, not because God has forgotten you. Sometimes the noise has become so constant that you can no longer hear what truly matters. Sometimes the opinions of others become so loud that they begin to drown out your own sense of purpose. Sometimes expectations, comparisons, disappointments, and distractions create a layer of confusion that keeps you from recognizing the strength already growing within you. There are periods of life when God allows silence to enter because silence can accomplish things that noise never could. The truth is that many of the deepest transformations happen away from crowds. Seeds grow underground before anyone sees them. Foundations are built beneath the surface before a structure rises into view. Character develops in private long before it is recognized publicly. During your lonely season, it may have appeared as though nothing important was happening. Yet beneath the surface, something significant was taking place. Your perspective was changing. Your priorities were changing. Your understanding of yourself was changing. The loneliness that felt unbearable was quietly revealing which relationships were genuine and which were temporary. It was revealing which habits strengthened you and which weakened you. It was showing you what remained when all the distractions were stripped away. That process was not easy. Some nights felt endless. Some mornings required strength you did not know you possessed. There were days when simply getting out of bed felt like a victory. There were moments when your faith felt fragile, moments when your confidence felt worn down, moments when you wondered if anyone truly understood the battles you were carrying. Yet the fact that you are here today proves something important. There is a strength within you that kept moving forward even on your darkest days. The fact that you are still standing says more about your strength than you realize. Many people only see visible victories. They celebrate promotions, achievements, milestones, and breakthroughs. What they rarely see are the silent victories. They do not see the tears you wiped away before facing the world. They do not see the courage it took to keep believing after disappointment. They do not see the determination required to continue showing kindness after experiencing rejection. Some of your greatest victories happened in silence when nobody was watching. The lonely season taught you endurance. It taught you resilience. It taught you how to survive without constant validation. It taught you how to keep going even when encouragement was scarce. Those lessons become part of a person's foundation. They become the inner strength that cannot be taken away by circumstances. One of the most difficult realizations in life is understanding that not everyone is meant to walk every part of your journey with you. Some people are present for a chapter. Some are present for a season. Some are present only long enough to teach a lesson. Holding on to relationships that have already completed their purpose often creates unnecessary pain. Yet when loneliness arrives, it forces you to release what no longer belongs in your future. It creates space. Space can feel uncomfortable. Space can feel empty. But space is also where growth happens. A field must be cleared before something new can be planted. A room must be emptied before it can be redesigned. Likewise, parts of life must sometimes become quiet before something meaningful can emerge. Looking back, you may eventually recognize that the loneliness was not simply the absence of people. It was the presence of preparation. It was the presence of reflection. It was the presence of healing. God saw the tears that nobody else noticed. God saw the moments when you felt forgotten. God saw the prayers you whispered when words felt difficult to find. Even when you could not see progress, progress was occurring. Even when you could not see purpose, purpose was unfolding. The seasons that tested you were also shaping who you were becoming. They were teaching you patience. They were teaching you wisdom. They were teaching you how to hear your own heart again beneath the endless noise of expectations and opinions. Many people spend their entire lives surrounded by activity, yet never truly understand themselves. They remain busy, distracted, entertained, and occupied. They never sit long enough with their own thoughts to discover who they are beneath all the roles they play. Your lonely season forced you into a deeper conversation with yourself. It pushed you to confront fears you had ignored. It pushed you to examine beliefs that no longer served you. It pushed you to recognize strengths you did not know existed. That journey was uncomfortable, but it was valuable. Your worth has never been determined by the number of people who understood you. Your worth has never been determined by how many invitations you received, how many people stayed, or how much recognition you obtained. You are worth far more than the moments that tried to make you feel small. The opinions of others are limited. The value within you is not. There are qualities within you that may have been developed precisely because of the loneliness. Compassion grows when people understand pain. Wisdom grows when people endure challenges. Strength grows when people keep moving forward despite discouragement. Your kindness cost you more than most people will ever understand. Yet your kindness remains evidence of your character, not your weakness. The world often celebrates loudness, visibility, and constant attention. But many of the strongest people develop their strength quietly. They learn to trust themselves. They learn to trust God. They learn to find peace even when circumstances remain uncertain. That kind of strength is not built overnight. It is built through seasons exactly like the one you endured. Not every battle you fought was in vain. Not every tear was wasted. Not every lonely moment was meaningless. The quiet season was teaching you how to hear what truly mattered, while everything else faded into the background. It was helping you discover that your identity could not depend entirely on external approval. It was helping you understand that your future was still valuable even when the present felt difficult. Your story has value even if it did not unfold the way you expected. The chapters that seemed empty may eventually become the chapters that make everything else meaningful. One day you may look back and realize that what felt like isolation was actually preparation. What felt like loss was actually refinement. What felt like abandonment was actually an invitation to grow deeper roots before the next season arrived. The noise had to become quiet because something important needed room to grow, and that growth is still unfolding within you today. If this message spoke to your heart and reminded you that your lonely season was never meaningless, subscribe to the channel and continue walking alongside a community that values faith, healing, purpose, and personal growth. Sometimes the encouragement you need arrives through people who understand the road you have traveled and the hope that still lies ahead. There comes a moment in every long season of loneliness when a person begins to realize that survival itself has become evidence of transformation. At first, you may not notice it. The days still feel ordinary. The challenges still appear familiar. The silence may still linger longer than you would prefer, yet something within you has changed. The version of yourself that entered the lonely season is not the same version that emerged from it. You have seen things differently. You have carried weights that strengthened muscles no one could see. You have developed a quiet resilience that only comes from enduring circumstances that offered very little comfort and very few answers. Many people assume that growth always feels exciting. They imagine transformation as a series of victories, celebrations, and visible achievements. But some of the most important growth feels uncomfortable while it is happening. It feels uncertain. It feels hidden. It feels lonely. A tree develops its roots in darkness before anyone admires its height. Likewise, some of the deepest work God does in a person's life happens beneath the surface where nobody else can see it. During your season of loneliness, you may have felt disconnected from the world around you. You may have wondered why others seemed able to find belonging, while you struggled to find your place. You may have questioned why certain relationships never became what you hoped they would become. You may have carried disappointment that remained hidden behind a calm face and a brave smile. Yet every one of those experiences was teaching you something about your value that external circumstances could never teach. The world often encourages people to measure themselves according to recognition. If others applaud them, they feel worthy. If others approve of them, they feel significant. If others include them, they feel accepted. The problem with that approach is that it places your sense of worth into the hands of people who may not fully understand your journey. The lonely season begins dismantling that dependency. It forces you to discover value that exists even when recognition is absent. It teaches you that your identity is not something others grant you. It is something that already exists within you. This realization often develops slowly. It develops through countless moments when you choose to keep going despite discouragement. It develops through prayers spoken in private. It develops through difficult days when you continue showing kindness, even though nobody seems to notice. It develops through disappointments that teach you how to trust God's timing instead of your own expectations. There is a maturity that emerges when a person stops chasing validation and begins embracing purpose. Purpose creates stability. Validation creates dependency. Purpose allows you to remain grounded even when circumstances fluctuate. Validation often rises and falls according to the opinions of others. During your lonely season, God may have been teaching you how to build your life upon something deeper than approval. He may have been teaching you how to stand firmly even when applause was absent. He may have been helping you discover that your value never depended upon the crowd. This lesson becomes increasingly important because life inevitably contains seasons when people misunderstand you. There will be times when your intentions are questioned. There will be times when your efforts go unnoticed. There will be times when your kindness is not returned. If your confidence depends entirely upon external affirmation, those experiences can become devastating. But when confidence is rooted in something deeper, they become survivable. The lonely season helps create that foundation. It reminds you that you can endure more than you once believed. It reminds you that your strength is real even when nobody acknowledges it. It reminds you that God's view of your life carries more weight than the changing opinions of people. Many individuals spend years trying to avoid loneliness. They fill every moment with activity. They surround themselves with noise. They seek constant distraction. Yet in doing so, they often avoid the very experiences that could help them grow. Solitude has a way of revealing truth. It reveals what genuinely matters. It reveals what deserves your energy and what does not. It reveals which relationships nourish your spirit and which ones drain it. It reveals dreams that still matter and distractions that only consumed your attention. While loneliness can be painful, it can also be clarifying. It can strip away confusion and expose priorities that were hidden beneath the noise. Looking back, you may recognize moments when you thought you were losing something valuable, only to discover later that you were being redirected towards something healthier. Relationships that ended may have prevented greater heartbreak. Closed doors may have protected you from paths that were never meant for you. Delays may have provided time for growth that would have been impossible otherwise. This does not mean every painful experience was easy or pleasant. It means that pain does not automatically eliminate purpose. Sometimes purpose is woven directly through the experiences we would have chosen to avoid. God often works quietly. His timing rarely matches human impatience. His preparation frequently occurs long before visible results appear. That reality can be difficult to accept when you are living through uncertainty. Yet countless people discover later that the waiting season contained gifts they could not see at the time. Your lonely season may have taught you empathy for others who feel forgotten. It may have taught you gratitude for genuine relationships. It may have taught you patience, wisdom, humility, and perseverance. These qualities become treasures that remain long after circumstances change. They become part of your character. They become part of your story. They become evidence that the difficult season accomplished something meaningful. The fact that you endured loneliness does not mean loneliness defines you. The fact that you experienced rejection does not mean rejection defines you. The fact that you face disappointment does not mean disappointment defines you. Difficult experiences are chapters. They are not the entire book. Sometimes people mistakenly believe that because they spent years feeling overlooked, they will always feel overlooked. They assume the pain of one season represents the future of every season. Yet life rarely works that way. Seasons change, circumstances evolve, opportunities appear. Healing unfolds gradually. New relationships enter your life. New understanding emerges. What feels permanent today may eventually become a memory that helped shape your strength. Hope grows when you remember that your current circumstances are not the final verdict on your future. The lonely season was not a declaration of your worthlessness. It was not proof that you lacked value. It was not evidence that God had forgotten you. In many ways, it was an invitation to discover how valuable you truly are. When external voices became quiet, you gained an opportunity to hear a deeper truth. You gained an opportunity to recognize that your life carries meaning, regardless of who notices. You gained an opportunity to understand that your perseverance matters, your faith matters, your compassion matters, your endurance matters, the struggles you survived matter. Every day you chose to continue despite discouragement demonstrated courage. Every time you extended kindness, despite disappointment, demonstrated strength. Every prayer you whispered, despite uncertainty, demonstrated faith. These moments may have appeared small, but they were shaping who you were becoming. God saw every one of them. He saw the sacrifices nobody acknowledged. He saw the burdens nobody understood. He saw the nights when your heart felt heavy and the mornings when you chose to rise anyway. Nothing was invisible to him. Nothing was wasted. The growth occurring within you was real, even when it remained hidden from everyone else. One of the most beautiful realizations that emerges after a lonely season is the understanding that peace does not require perfect circumstances. Peace can exist even while unanswered questions remain. Peace can exist even before every prayer receives an answer. Peace can exist because your trust is no longer based entirely on what you can see. That kind of peace becomes a source of strength. It allows you to move forward with confidence, even when the path remains uncertain. It allows you to believe that your story still contains meaningful chapters ahead. If you have walked through a season where the world felt unusually quiet, remember this. Quiet does not mean empty. Quiet does not mean forgotten. Quiet does not mean abandoned. Sometimes quiet is where healing begins. Sometimes quiet is where wisdom grows. Sometimes quiet is where God gently removes distractions so you can recognize the value He placed within you all along. If these words encouraged your heart and helped you see your journey through a lens of hope, subscribe to the channel and continue receiving messages that strengthen faith, resilience, healing, and purpose. You do not have to walk every difficult season feeling unseen, because encouragement and understanding often arrive exactly when they are needed most. One day, often when you least expect it, you begin to see your lonely season from a completely different perspective. The pain does not suddenly disappear from your memory. The difficult moments do not become pleasant experiences. The disappointments do not magically transform into things you would choose to repeat. Yet your understanding changes. What once looked like emptiness begins to reveal hidden purpose. What once looked like abandonment begins to reveal preparation. What once looked like silence begins to reveal guidance. The very season that caused you to question so much becomes the season that explains so much. You begin to recognize how many of the qualities you value most within yourself were strengthened during that time. The patience you now possess did not emerge from comfort. The wisdom you carry did not emerge from ease. The resilience that helps you face challenges today was not built during moments when everything went according to plan. It was built during the days when you had every reason to give up, but continued anyway. It was built during the nights when you felt discouraged, but chose to keep believing. It was built during the seasons when nobody seemed to notice your effort, yet you remained faithful to the person you wanted to become. There is something remarkable about people who have endured loneliness without allowing it to harden their hearts. They understand pain, yet they still choose compassion. They understand disappointment, yet they still choose hope. They understand rejection, yet they still choose kindness. That kind of character is rare. It is easy to remain loving when life is easy. It is much harder to remain loving when life has tested you repeatedly. Yet you continued. You may not have done it perfectly. You may have stumbled, struggled, doubted, and questioned along the way. But you continued. That matters more than you realize. Sometimes people underestimate the significance of endurance. They focus only on dramatic victories and visible achievements, yet endurance is often the bridge that leads to those victories. Endurance is what keeps a person moving when motivation fades. Endurance is what carries a person through uncertainty. Endurance is what allows someone to continue planting seeds even when they cannot yet see the harvest. The lonely season taught you endurance. It taught you how to keep going when encouragement was limited. It taught you how to trust that meaningful things were happening even when visible evidence was scarce. Those lessons will continue serving you long after the lonely season has ended. They become part of your foundation. They become part of your strength. As you move forward, you may discover that some of the things you once desperately wanted are no longer the things you value most. The loneliness may have refined your priorities. It may have shown you that genuine connection matters more than popularity. It may have shown you that peace matters more than approval. It may have shown you that authenticity matters more than performance. When people spend enough time alone with their thoughts, they often gain clarity about what truly deserves their energy. That clarity becomes a gift. It protects them from chasing things that look impressive but provide little fulfillment. It helps them recognize opportunities that align with their values. It helps them build a future that reflects who they genuinely are rather than who others expect them to be. The quiet season may also have taught you something important about God's presence. Many people expect God to speak through dramatic moments. They expect grand signs, immediate answers, and obvious direction. Yet throughout life, some of the deepest guidance arrives quietly. It arrives through gradual understanding. It arrives through growing wisdom. It arrives through a peace that develops despite uncertainty. During your lonely season, God may not have removed every challenge immediately. He may not have answered every question according to your preferred timeline, but that does not mean he was absent. The truth is that God often works most deeply in places where human attention rarely looks. He works within hearts. He works within character. He works within the unseen parts of a person's life, where transformation quietly takes place. God saw the tears that nobody else noticed. He saw the moments when you questioned your worth. He saw the moments when you wondered whether your efforts mattered. He saw the sacrifices you made, the burdens you carried, and the faith you maintained despite uncertainty. Nothing escaped his attention. Every act of perseverance mattered. Every step forward mattered. Every prayer mattered. Sometimes the greatest evidence of God's work is not found in immediate outcomes. It is found in the person you become while waiting. Consider how much strength exists within you now that did not exist before. Consider how much wisdom has been gained through experience. Consider how much compassion has developed because you understand what it feels like to struggle silently. These are not small things. These are significant gifts. They are part of the reason your story matters. Your story matters because there are people who will one day need the perspective you gained through your struggles. There are people who will need encouragement from someone who understands what loneliness feels like. There are people who will need reassurance from someone who knows what it means to keep going despite disappointment. The experiences you survived may eventually become sources of comfort for others. Your wounds can become wisdom. Your struggles can become strength. Your journey can become a reminder that difficult seasons do not last forever. This does not mean every problem will vanish. Life continues to include challenges. Every person encounters new obstacles, new uncertainties, and new seasons of growth. Yet there is a difference between facing challenges with experience and facing them without it. You now know that you can survive difficult seasons. You now know that pain does not automatically destroy purpose. You now know that loneliness does not automatically mean abandonment. You now know that growth often occurs beneath the surface before it becomes visible. These truths become anchors during future storms. They remind you that temporary circumstances do not determine eternal value. They remind you that difficult chapters do not define entire lives. They remind you that hope remains possible even when answers are delayed. Perhaps one of the most beautiful things to remember is that your life has never been measured solely by visible accomplishments. The world often places enormous emphasis on achievements, titles, possessions, and recognition. Yet some of the most meaningful victories happen within the heart. Learning to forgive is a victory. Choosing kindness after disappointment is a victory. Maintaining faith through uncertainty is a victory. Continuing to love despite previous pain is a victory. These victories may not attract attention, but they reveal extraordinary strength. The fact that you are still standing says more about your strength than you realize. The fact that you continued believing through difficult seasons says more about your faith than you realize. The fact that you maintained compassion despite hardship says more about your character than you realize. You are not defined by the moments that made you feel overlooked. You are not defined by the people who failed to recognize your value. You are not defined by the seasons that felt empty. You are defined by the courage that kept moving forward. You are defined by the resilience that survived. You are defined by the faith that endured. Your story is still unfolding. There are chapters ahead that you cannot yet see. There are lessons still waiting to reveal their purpose. There are blessings that may arrive in forms you never expected. The lonely season was never the end of your story. It was part of the preparation. It was part of the growth. It was part of the process through which God quietly removed the noise so you could discover the strength, wisdom, value, and purpose that had been within you all along. If this message brought comfort to your heart and reminded you that your journey has meaning even in its hardest chapters, subscribe to the channel so you can continue receiving encouragement rooted in faith, healing, perseverance, and hope. Together we can keep reflecting on the truths that help us grow stronger, trust deeper, and remember that God never forgets the people He is still shaping.